Hey guys, welcome to the second Good Roots podcast. I'm your host, Michael, and I'm here with our hosts, Seth and Alex. So today we're going to be talking about Good Roots creatives. So Seth, why don't you give us a little dive into what it means to be a creative at Good Roots?
Yeah. Thank you, Michael. It's just like NPR. You know what I'm talking about? All right. Anyways. Yeah. So Good Roots creatives. That's something that we are very passionate about is creativity. And so for us, like we as a collective, we want to be a space for people to be able to be creative, whatever field that is, whether it's photography, video, graphic design, artistry, music, whatever. We have just like that kind of space for that. So yeah, I would say for us is like, for me, how I started off with Good Roots and just being like Good Roots creative was when Nick Couture, he asked me to help him with a video for a campaign for teachers, and so we got together, we shot it, edited it, and edited it. It's so weird to say that. We shot it and edited it. We shot and edited it, and yeah, at that point we were just like, okay, let's make this a space for creatives because this was a lot of fun. It brought in traction for the campaign, but also was just like, just kind of introduced a space of like, okay, we want to be a creative platform, and Nick has used it when he was a part of it. He's a graphic designer and just really killed it. And yeah, so that's kind of how I started in that. And
I want to interject really quick. So you brought up campaigns, and that's not something that we talked about in our previous episode. So I'm just going to give a brief little overview of what that means. So in Good Roots, one of the things we do is as like creatives, we kind of come together collectively and we create campaigns to help fund nonprofits. And one of the ways we do that is by selling merchandise and helping donate to those nonprofits by Blessing Bag Brigade is one of the campaigns we have, and we're starting a new one with Wave Project. And like when you buy like our t-shirts and things like that, it actually gives out a hygiene bag to those in need through the Blessing Bag Brigade. So when he brings up campaigns, he means how we build like our social our social media around to promote those campaigns. So we not only have a place for creatives, but we have an outlet for creatives to express things, to help kind of give back in that situation.
Yeah. And what's cool about that is like, it's like creativity for a good cause, you know? It's like, I think there's this stigma, especially within the Christian culture, that creativity isn't like kind of for us. And really, I think Christianity, I've heard this said before, it's like Christianity used to be, and should still be, but used to be the major influence in like, in culture when it came to creativity. Like, Michelangelo and like with all these like, artists that were Christians, or evangelical Christians, and they were creatives and leader in that field and just being able to influence the culture. And I think that for us is like, we as creatives, want to be able to influence the culture and be able to use our abilities to glorify God, but also to really have an impact and to help others, because other people's stories need to be told. And I think that's like one of the things is what we strive for is like storytelling with a purpose, and to really like to love one another in that. So yeah,
I think like for me, like personally, as a like photographer at nature, like I feel like one of my jobs as like a Christian and creator is to kind of like showcase testimony through emotion and stuff like that through photography. And I think in that sense, like you're able to like give glory to God when you're shooting with a purpose to tell his story. Right. I mean, as photographers, like our job is to capture, to still a moment. But like in that moment, you can also build on the fact of like for landscape photography, if I go out to take landscape photography, like I'm shooting with the intent of showcasing my creator's work. You know what I mean? Like someone once told me all art is just an imitation of like God's like beauty, right? Yeah. So if we're doing that, or like if we're out doing portraits or things like that, like my job is to show you like how God sees you. Not that I come anywhere close, but you need to look at that and think, wow, like that is God thinks you're beautiful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and you're loved in that situation. Do you know what I mean? Like, as a photographer, like that's our responsibility, like Christian creative. Like,
right.
Alex, do you agree? Like in that sense?
Yeah. I think that what you just said was a like beautiful quote too. Like,
Thank you.
all art is essentially God's work, God's creations, celebrating God's creations.
Yeah. How for you, like, especially because you do a lot of like landscape and building and a lot of portrait too, but your photography is really centered around like black and white and film and things like that. But like, how for you, have you like been telling stories and like have told stories? Yeah, I guess like for you, like, what does that mean to you?
For me, like, right now I'm in a place with photography where it's like I'm trying to bring out like beauty in suffering, like beauty in everything, you know, like, not only the good times, like the world can also be grim, but there's beauty in that.
Right.
And when I go to take photos, like landscapes or anything, like I'm still trying to show God's beauty within those dark places that I'm going to.
Right.
And I don't only just shoot dark, you know, like grim stuff like that, but that's what I've been shooting a lot recently.
Well, you know, that's funny. I was reading like a Jesus Calling. Have you ever heard of that book, Jesus Calling?
I haven't.
It's like a daily devotional, but the way that they like do it, like, I don't know how, but like it just so lines up with my life. Whenever I just like open it up and you pick a day and you, like the day's date, you just read it.
Yeah.
Well, I was reading one time, because I was like, had this impression like Christ was just this happy, giddy, like, yo, like it's all good, and you know, like, and so he actually, like, in that excerpt, like, it really pointed you in the Bible to where it was like showing like that God was like, or Jesus, same thing, but Jesus was like a man of heavy sorrow. Like he carried the weight of the world, like literally the sin of the world. Like he's a man of heavy sorrow, that you come to him with those kind of things. And I think that in that you can still showcase his glory. You know what I mean? Like, you're not just giving that, and it's not like the Roman Catholic version of Christ that you're you know, sat on the cross kind of thing. You're showcasing like true suffering or true pain, right? But you're capturing it from, you know, a Christian perspective. Like,
right,
you're helping shape an image there. Like, it's not just like, it's not just going to be sunshine and rainbows. If you say like, Jesus, like, I commit myself to you, it's going to be some of the most difficult, challenging things you're ever going to face. I tell everybody all the time, being a Christian is going to be the hardest thing you ever do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, you know, you see
the devil's going to try and tempt you in so many ways, but you have to be strong. Like, you have to like know how to appreciate those things, but still, you know, not fall into temptation, even though sometimes you do, but it's like God forgives you,
and we fall into that,
and there's beauty in that grace.
We fall into that stigma, like #blessed. You know what I mean? Like everything's supposed to be good, and that's not how it is.
What is even blessing? Because like that's something I've talked about. Is a little bit off topic, but like that in itself, like blessing is not.
We just talked about this in church this Sunday.
Yeah, like blessing is not always like it's not always material, because like I could be blessed with like okay, like for example, relationships, but even like Paul, like he said, like the thorn in his side, or like like being in prison, like count it all as blessing, because like it brought him to be more refined. And I think that's something that we as believers like kind of lose track of. Like we assume blessing is always in this realm of like the good, and like that's not wrong necessarily. Like there's still goodness, and there's still everything like that in life, but it's like that's the thing, is it's blessing in itself is not always just the like good things. Like a lot of times it can be the really, really brokenness, but like God uses that to refine you, to bring you to another point. So Alex, for you, like how do you express your creativity? Like what is I know photography is one of your ways, but I know there's like other ways that you've expressed in the past, but like what's one of your, what other ways do you express your creativity?
Well, I also make music.
Mm-hmm.
I used to make a lot more than I do now, but now I'm more focused in photography. But all of my life, I've grown up in carpentry, and like there's a part of carpentry where it's like you can get creative with it.
Yeah.
You can put your touches on
Right.
it. And so I think that's helped me grow as a creative too. But right now my main focus of creativity is through photography.
Yeah. With like carpentry specifically, like how within that have you been able to express your creativity like more in detail, like with the cabinetry, or has it been like more of like specific builds, or I'm just curious like within that.
So with the cabinetry, it's still kind of just like make this box, do this, and send it off to wherever it goes, right? But when I used to do more of the finish work, like on-site work, installing the cabinets, that's where I felt like I could express more of my creativity by just like putting on different moldings and installing the cabinets, making them look nice.
Right.
But yeah, now I'm just making cabinets a lot, and I enjoy that too.
But you know, at the same time, like that's creative,
right?
Like, you know what I mean? Like it's a creative process,
right?
Like anybody who's worked before knows, like there's some creativity that goes into it. You see a dovetail. I mean, there's some creativity that goes into there.
And it's not easy either. Like woodworking is one of those skill sets I've tried and consistently fail at, because it is like, one, it is creativity, but two, it's like it's a lot of mathematics too. Like you kind of have to know your angles, and
you need like a mentor in it too. Like
depending on like, because some mentors they'll teach you like don't even use a tape measure, just like you know,
kind of see it.
Go with it, just watch, and like it depends what you're building too.
Right. That's interesting. What about you, Michael? What is like one of your main ways that you've expressed your creativity?
I would say like photography, definitely, but like taking it a step further would be more of like composition photography.
Right.
I love like I get inspired by like an emotion or something like that, or like a verse that I see in the Bible or something like that.
Right.
And I try to emulate that through creating composition through it. One of the things that I did not too long ago was I was feeling anxiety, right? Like I was just feeling that emotion. Not that I was suffering from it, but there's people around me that were really struggling with anxiety. And I tried to place myself in like, what does that feel like as like a Christian? Like he says, like, you know, don't be anxious. Like I didn't give you a spirit of fear or worry, right? But yet we still experience all those emotions.
Yeah.
And you know, I believe that I don't believe the devil's behind every door, but I do believe that he, you know, walks this earth and he, you know, lays traps and things like that, right? So I built this composition of it was like a deep ocean, like a man falling in the ocean, and like right in the shadows you can kind of like see those hands pulling up at him. And like to me, like that's what anxiety would feel like. Like you could see the surface and you can't breathe, and you feel like you're being pulled deeper. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
like using those kind of emotions and things like that to build a composition to like tell a story that way. I love one of my first and favorite compositions I ever did was I went to Riverbends Park. It's a little park out in Utica, and they have this little bend. So I walked out there and I felt really stupid. I set up my tripod. I'm all by myself and I'm, you know, taking pictures of myself. You know, 30-year-old Michael in the park taking pictures. So nothing weird about that, right? So I'm out there taking pictures, and I get back and I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. So like I pray. And I was like, man, I felt really stupid. Like I felt stupid taking those pictures, like all by myself. And I just kind of felt that small, quiet voice just whisper, like, but you weren't by yourself.
Right.
And then it just sparked me. Boom.
Right.
I ended up making this. And, you know, I made this image of like it was of Jesus, but it wasn't really of Jesus. You couldn't tell, right? Just glowing, just that holy light right next to me while I was walking down there, and built that whole scene because I just felt inspired. Like, yeah, I'm not alone.
Right.
And like, it told that story, like, you're not alone. So like a way that I witness to people is through composition photography.
I love that.
That's
I think, yeah, like, just, what were you going to say, Alex?
Just like, I was just going to say, like, that's awesome. Like, that's beautiful. Like, that you've done that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So like creativity within even the mundane, like, I think that's something that like God has instilled in us, just within our minds and our souls, and like being able to, because we have like the right and left brain kind of, thing, which like everyone has like attributes of both. But I think some people lean into creativity as we see culturally, like video and photography and art and graphic design and all that. Like there's just like, that's kind of what we would perceive as creative. But I think God goes a step beyond that, because, builders and like, woodworkers and people that do construction, like even electricians and plumbers and all these people, like they're creative people. They have to problem solve, and I think that's what is the biggest thing. I think that's one of the coolest things with like creativity, because it's a wider spectrum. Right. It's not just subjective to art, right? It's like, yeah, it's like we're all creative in some aspect or another. So that's something I just like, I would say for myself is I also love to do video, and I love to do photography and things like that. But I actually find a lot more joy in like setting up and kind of like and like trying to, I don't know, just like gear, like camera gear really excites me. Like I love like I love playing with camera gear and just like learning how things work and like kind of function, and like car mechanics and stuff like that interests me and stuff. And so yeah,
your creativity flows like the best when it's like crafting vision.
Yeah.
So like with the videos that we've edited together and stuff, that final touch you're really good at seeing, and I think that's what makes you such a great producer. And it is a form of creativity. Like being like a producer, you have to have a broad spectrum of creativity. You have to be able to see the whole picture. So it's not just so much of like finite, like I just need to get this shot. You have to balance these shots, the edits, the way that it's all forming and mapping together. That's your creativity. It's connecting the dots.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that is creative.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. And I think it's I like when I went into film school, I thought I was going to be like a big director or whatever, and it was such a silly. Yeah, I just like I realized quickly I hated that. I hated directing.
Right.
But the more and more I've been doing this, like I've been finding that a lot of my joy comes through just collaboration. Like I just love working with people. I love working, being and seeing. Like I love one of my the biggest thing that I enjoy. I saw that.
I was trying to do it low key.
But no, like one of the things that I find the biggest joy in is just like seeing other people thrive in their creativity and just really like their skill sets, like seeing them start to develop even more and more and more. Like seeing your skill sets with like graphic design is awesome. Like seeing how much you progressed and stuff. And even Alex, like seeing like some of his older photos to now, it's like they were still good then, but now it's like you're seeing like how
you can see your story coming about.
Yeah.
You can see that you're shooting, like not that you weren't before, but you could just, there's a development.
Yeah.
There's a development that you from your perspective gets to see, because you have that, like you have that overview creativity.
Yeah,
you do. You can see that growth, like, and you can see you shooting with a purpose.
Yeah, and we love that, and that's something
awesome.
that we love.
Dude, I love your photos, dude.
Yeah,
thank you.
They always you can always see it, which is cool, because like storytelling isn't solely based off of moving images or just like narration, right? It's like story, like that's why they say like a picture is worth 1,000 words, because there's so much within that. And I think honestly, like pictures tell more stories than even movies and books, because like you have to really analyze each detail within that photo. And like when you're able as a photographer or a painter to bring out those details, it's cool to see how that like those details matter when it comes to that. And so, and it really it shows every aspect of that. Like I saw a picture you took of like an old car, and it's like you know, when was that car made? You know, like who
Right.
owns it? Like I wonder where it's driven to, like kind of things like that. I don't know. It's just like it really brings out a lot of that aspect, which is really cool.
So
Yeah.
to build on that,
Yeah.
I would take it a step further. Instead of saying how people see my photograph or how they see my story, I would argue to say, look at it like this. How does it impact them? Because people
Right.
don't always see
Mm-hmm.
what they feel.
Right.
If I took an art history class a long time ago, and it broke down though how like a photo impacts people, like why it impacts people,
Mm-hmm.
right? When you are able to impact the person viewing it, that's how we tell a story.
Yeah.
Mm.
You invoke an
Yeah.
emotion.
Yeah.
You invoke an emotion that they need to dig deeper about. That is
Mhm.
how you impact people by telling your story.
Mhm. That just reminded me. So like same with music, like you've produced music and we like I love just like music in general. I think as like everyone, but like in general, like I
I don't think I
have
know anyone who doesn't like music.
yeah, like well, music is so a part of every culture, and I think that's
but it's
what's
a part
so
of
beautiful,
worship, too,
right?
like-
And it's like God is like designed that, so it's like music is so a part of every single culture. Like,
Mm-hmm.
my old roommate Ben, one of my favorite people in the world, he when we were roommates, I remember like I would be in my other room and I would be like taking a nap or whatever, and like hearing him like produce like some of his music and his albums and then hearing them like published was like one of the most like I don't know, it's just an experience you can't really enjoy or like really what's the word, just really understand or really appreciate. That's the word. It's hard to appreciate like when you just hear a song, right? Like when it just comes out, it's like released on a Friday and you get the mix or whatever. On like Spotify, like it's cool, it's like it's really new, it's like fun, but when you get to like experience kind of the process through that, like I know you've experienced this, like you have artists come in and like you kind of create that vision for them and they see it and it's like amazingly when you're a part of that, like hearing Ben's music and just seeing that process, like there's so many like revisions and there's so much of this, but it's like each step is a new story to the completion, and like when you hear it and complete it and you're like, wow, like that is so cool that it started somewhere else and then it took a completely different path,
Right.
and yeah, by the way, if you ever want to check out Ben's music, his name is Bick, BICQ, I believe.
When I get into my creative mode, sometimes I don't even really like have an idea of what I'm trying to create.
Right.
Sometimes I'm just like documenting in like whatever way,
Hmm.
in a creative way, you know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
And when I used to make music, like lots of music, I didn't know what sound was coming next. I feel like this can kind of relate
Yeah.
to what you're talking about with
Yeah.
Ben. Like, I feel like, well, I don't know, like, do we not know what we're going to create next sometimes? You
Mhm.
know?
Yeah.
Like, so you're
Yeah.
saying like you're kind of just leaving the median open
Right.
and just discovering, not necessarily creating. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like discovering the project.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the creative flow is such an interesting thing, which I think is such a beautiful thing that God's like put in our minds and like our souls.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's not like you're on autopilot, but it's like almost like that where like you're in this natural like space of like it's hard for me to experience all the time, but like sometimes when I'm like editing like video editing a piece or something, and I'm like I just have like I'm just kind of like building on top of like building blocks, like you're just doing, you know, there's no like, oh, I should put this here and here, but like when you are in that creative flow, it's just like I'm just laying down, kind of just throwing up essentially, like what's in your mind and like creatively just like throwing up, which is kind of coarse, but it's like whatever, like it's so cool to, yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's like sometimes you're not always just thinking, you're just like, this is just kind of natural. It's almost like instinctual,
Right.
you know?
See, mine's a little different. Like I can walk into a situation not knowing what I'm going to create, and it's like I'm hunting, like
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the scent.
Mm.
And then once I find it, it's just like, pew, I know where I'm going, what I'm doing, and how I'm doing it. And it's just like running through it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so like mine is more of like, I just need to know where you're pointing me, and then I will sprint full speed.
That's where we differ.
Right.
It's like,
Yeah.
like you can put anything in front of me and like I can probably like, I don't know. Well, I just don't really need a direction.
Right,
Like
right.
I can capture like.
Yeah, I'm not like that sometimes.
Well, I'm saying like if we're doing like a project, right? Like we're like, okay, we're down in Detroit and
Right.
we're, you know, hey, we want to do something with these buildings, right? I want pictures of these buildings,
Mhm.
right? And every photographer is going, okay, well, how am I going to do this different? Like everybody just, right? It's that angle. Like I might not know how I'm going to do this different, but like once I find that angle that I'm going to do, boom, I know what I got to do, when I got to do it and run.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
more like that. It's like there's like this waiting period, and that waiting period drives me nuts. Where I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like I get on like couple shoots and like I do like family portraits and stuff, and I get there and I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna do every time. And I've been doing this for a while. Like I just did senior pictures, and I'm like, I have no idea what I'm gonna do here.
Yeah.
And I was like, because you know he was a cool kid. He didn't want to do. He didn't want, you know, he wasn't a picture guy, but he was doing it for his mom, which is cool.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And like even in like that's part of like the mundane photography, the creative world.
Right.
You still find creativity, you know.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And then finally I found a little bit of all right, let's go. We're running, let's do it. But that middle ground is what just makes it rough.
Yeah. Well, it's fun though, like being able to kind of go into something without knowing exactly what to do. Like
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like I've honestly enjoyed that more sometimes because I am more structured. Like I sometimes it gives me anxiety, but sometimes it's fun. Like when there's no like high stakes. Like if it's just like we're going out and just shooting for shooting for
there's
fun.
a big
like,
difference when you get paid.
Like yeah.
I
big stress.
I understand why I'm like my brain's routed such a certain way.
Right.
Like, because like I haven't done as much serious you know, stuff. Like
But the thing is, I think that's okay because like you bring in that perspective of like almost like a natural flow. You'll build the confidence within that. Like there can be still like like there's gonna be nervousness and kind of feeling high stakes, but when you're in a place of I've been doing this for a while and like you can naturally do it, it really that for me is like I would rather hire someone in that realm than someone that's like almost just doing the minimum. You know what I mean? Like you're gonna almost go above and beyond in a good way to be able to like produce the best content. So
because it's going to mean more to you.
Yeah, it's going to mean more to you.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I think it's really good. And I think, I think as creatives, it's important to have a little bit of like, but like, it's important to have structure, but like at the same time, you want to be able to just have that creative flow because that's
freedom and discipline.
Yeah. And I think that's good.
I always got that confused, dude, because like he calls you to have a spirit of discipline, and I'm like, yeah, but God, like you made me, and I am a free spirit. You know what I mean? Like, no, that's not what I do. Yeah, but it is. It's like discipline and freedom.
Right.
So like, as Christians and as believers, like, what is like one of the biggest struggles you guys face in the creative industry? And I'm talking like churches. I'm talking like
I'm gonna take lead on this, Alex, if that's cool.
So this is
you go for it.
Yeah, this might get a little saucy. So
I hope you guys are ready. So there's a stigma around creativity, and there's this like a stigma around like art, and I feel like as Christians, like you get pulled into it, and like you need to be careful. Like you need to keep your guard up in a lot of these situations because there are a lot of traps that the enemy tries to take creativity and pervert it. Right?
100%.
I mean, there has been many situations where I've been like, hey God, like what's going on here? Like, I don't think you're calling me into this. A little backstory behind my cameras. I prayed that God would give me cameras, and literally like he Express Pass had cameras ready for me. And every time it comes to one of those questionable situations, and when you're creative, it is so easy to get into that questionable realm where your morals are being questioned.
Oh yeah.
I would always get that feeling like, I gave you these. Why would you use that? There's some Bible verse that's like, I've made a covenant with my eyes for the Lord, and I don't know the exact verse, so please don't leave comments saying like how I got it wrong, please. Paraphrasing. Yeah. But anyways, it's like, I made a covenant with the Lord with my eyes, and I always think that with my camera, like I'm looking through that camera,
right.
and like I feel like it's kind of like that third thing, and I think that's like one of the biggest struggles, like that I've noticed, like when you're full time just diving into it, and like you're moving in the film industry, and like you're working on sets and things like that. It's so easy to just veer off to that path.
Like when I started out as, you know, a videographer, I was hungry and wanted to just kind of work and do whatever. I think like the appropriate, and I'm saying this for whether it's a church or like, you know, a production house or whatever, like coming in and like, I had this actually happen to me when I was working for Eightfold. Like they had me become like or I was on like a PA work or whatever. And like, you know, the first one is like, okay, like it is exposure and that's fine. And I was able to network and be able to pay, but like I was able to have someone kind of like steward me at the beginning and be like, okay, like don't work for free all the time. Like don't work for free.
Your time is valuable.
Your time is valuable. And like having that stewardship, and I kind of wish that I had that stewardship in other realms, but it's like for me, like for us as a creative collective, as Good Roots, is like we want to be able to approach it like that. Say like someone comes up and it's like, I would love to just do photos for you or whatever, like, and it's like, that's awesome, that's so good that you have that fire and a passion, but like right now we can't like afford you, but if we have jobs, like we definitely want you to be on that or like shadow and be able to be paid for that.
Right. But I think like with Good Roots too, like we do bring an income.
Right.
And like there are many times where like whoever's involved on that project, we negotiate pricing and we contract out. You know what I mean?
That's
like,
the thing is like it's approaching it though at the beginning, like say if we didn't or whatever, it's like I think what I'm kind of getting at is like it for people that are new into the game, sometimes there isn't as much of a knowledge of like you kind of have to fight for your
seat at the table.
Yeah, seat at the table. And it's like to be able to just invite them to that seat and kind of give them that platform to still be creative and still have that fire burning. Because like for a while, like I remember at the beginning, like that fire was kind of squashed because like I felt like I couldn't be as expressive as I wanted to. And like it was kind of being like used in a sense.
So what you're saying is Good Roots is a place for people to come and volunteer.
No. If you want to work for free, come to Good Roots. We have a place for you.
Yeah, you know that whole rant we just had about like the church and stuff. We're just a little bit hypocrite. Yeah. No. So I think Good Roots is a great place for people to come and find like good Christian centered creatives that will not only like either work and grow with you or mentor you. Like if you're new into this, like reach out, let us pour our knowledge that like we've been through being in the different industries. Like we got music, we got film, we got photography, and a blend of everywhere in between there. Like I remember when I first started out in photography, like I reached out to a company or a group of people and I was like, hey, like, I'm learning photography, and they're like, like this is younger Michael. I just want to learn how to, take pictures and make money. And they're like, you're gonna get screwed over. You need to charge this amount. Don't go cheap and don't do free work. And I was like, but I just want to take pictures. And I just, I like people. And they're like, don't go for free, dude. And I was like, okay, well, so I got charged like I remember like. Someone asked me if I wanted to take pictures, and I charged like $400. It was my first time too, and they're like, "Oh, all right." I was like, "Oh, that didn't work."
Yeah.
So like, and then all of a sudden I went through this whole season where I'm like, "Yeah, I'm like a $600 photographer," and I wasn't. I was like a 50-cent photographer.
No, we're not.
When I first started out, I definitely was, and so okay, maybe like $250. Like buy me a Big Mac, I'll take your pictures, like something like that. And so then I was like not getting any work, and I was like nothing. So I started reaching out to do free work for people because I just wanted to take photos, but I wanted to do photos the way I wanted to. So I went through and I messaged a bunch of people on Instagram, and that worked for me because I started learning how to like work with, and I like started messaging influencers and all these things. I was like, hey, like come, let me take a picture. And like, I was like, hey, we can do like a giveaway, and like, I will give away a free family photo. But like at the same time, like my mindset was, I'm using this to build my portfolio.
Yeah, it is a balance.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So like it's like, it's gotta be who you are and like what you're okay with.
Yeah. I think that's where for me is like, I came from a place of hurt, and like, I can sound like I'm like just a lot of bitterness. And so I'm praying that God restores that and in my heart, and realizing, okay, like some of it was probably just in my head, and like some of the things that I went through in that perspective, like probably or I have to like just like let go. But for me too, like in the futures, like I don't know, I value that a lot. Like I value our team, like I value Alex and his work, and like the stuff that he creates, dude. It's like thousands of dollars. Like I'm not even like messing around. Like the stuff that you create is amazing, and for you, it's
still
like,
at 50 cents.
But no, dude, like for you to come on the team, it's like I'm hoping that we help develop like resources for you, and like being able to develop space for you and get you connected and stuff. And
I think we've already started like laying that footwork. But I think I want to kind of like wrap with this. Like so like our verse of the day is Colossians 23, right? And it says, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters, right? But if we look at like God's perspective on work, like I keep thinking, and I know that this is based on the kingdom of heaven, like I know that this is the context to it, but he talks about the workers and how he paid everyone a tenth, even though he got them later in the day. And like that's a verse that popped out to me, and I know that that's for the kingdom of heaven, and that's how, but that's an example of how God shows payment. So if God is willing to pay people to work in his vineyard, right,
we should be
right. And I know that that's taking and that's stretching it. Please, comments, be nice.
Well, yeah,
I'm saying this in the sense of like not, this isn't biblical like scripture, and I'm comparing it in that sense. I'm saying let's be open-minded to the fact that God would be willing to pay you for your wages.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't a church? Okay.
Right.
So keep that in mind, just in the sense of like don't let yourself be taken advantage of in those situations.
That's kind of the message of it all. It's like, you know, it's God honors like you can honor God with your work but get paid. And I think that's something just like to take away from that.
Right.
Yeah. And like it's not coarse, and I don't think it's unbiblical. I think God honors that too. Yeah. And I think just like walking in that, and also glorifying God with what you do is that form of worship, you know? So,
and I really do feel like I need to wrap with this, like this isn't like a blanket statement for all churches. Like my church does not walk in that kind of light. They're very about building disciples and like filling the people that like are serving for them and things like that. Right. I'm sure there are a lot of other churches out there.
There are.
There's a lot of people that have been hurt in that situation.
Yeah. We hear you, and
we're here. Yeah. Like if you want to talk, like reach out, connect. We're on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Just look up the Good Roots Collective. Like we want to network with you guys. Like we want to get to know you guys.
Yeah, we love that. All right. Well, Michael.
Hey guys, I really want to thank Fellowship Chapel, my home church, for allowing us to host our podcast here. If you guys are in the area and you guys are looking for an amazing church, Fellowship Chapel is it. They are in Sterling Heights. They are for you, for Macomb and for the world. And if you guys want to check them out, it's fellowshipchapel.net. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you for everyone that is listening. Remember that we are here to love God, love people, and love life. And have an amazing day. And remember, spread some good roots. Alex, anything else you want to say?
No, I think
choo-choo, good roots, good roots.
Good roots.
Good roots.
45 minutes later.
Love you guys. Thank you so much for listening. Have a good one.